Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the lecturer of this subject, Mrs. Dr. Randa Dede Pertamana MTD, and all of my beloved friends. So today, we are from group 9, and our group will present about Euro Englishes. And the first one is me, Konita Nurhasana. The second one, Bila Nurfatia. The third, Vina Dwi Harpa. The fourth, Firda Maya Ulfa. And the last is Ade Dimas Muhammad. Without any further ado, let's start with the introduction. And this part will be presented by Firda. Firda, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, the moderator. The first is introduction. The spread of English through European culture was a complex process which had major impact on social, culture, and political life, as well as education at all levels. David Gordon said, "No other region has been more impacted by the rise of Britain than Europe." English is growing more advanced than other European language, continues to climb more and more dominance, and is considered by many to be a threat military language and cultures. The gap between mainland Europe and the UK in terms of setting English language teaching or ELT standards. Mainland European ELT relies on British English translation because most of the educational materials used in mainland Europe are imported from the UK. In addition, across Europe, the British Council operates language learning service within the framework of the standard British English and the cultural context of the UK and Commonwealth. Therefore, the way British scholars conceptuals English has a greatly influenced ELT practitioners across the Europe. Second, there is a focus on the way English used in mainland Europe in a lingua franca among non-native speakers, giving rise to the concept of the Euro-English. Finally, there is a study regarding the role of English in the European Union, because English is closely linked to the future of the European Union. The official function of English is the European Union will have major impact on the form and function of English in this part of the world. English has been studied as a foreign language throughout mainland Europe since the 19th century. However, before the World War II, German, especially in Eastern and Northern Europe, and French were often the targets of the foreign language teaching and learning. In the post-war period, the number of English language learners surpassed that of all the foreign language. Official statistics show that before the expansion in 2004, more than 90% of the secondary school students studied in English. 10 countries, mostly in Eastern Europe, joined the European Union in 2004. Russian has become a compulsory subject in formal education in all Eastern European countries. With the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, interest in the foreign language among students in Eastern Europe that more. There are more than 55 million native English speakers in the British Isles. The EU is therefore unique that within country there is a large community of the inner circle first language speakers who product the majority of ELT materials for distribution throughout the world, as well as large number of non-native speakers who are receive mandatory foreign language education in the country. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Firda, for your great explanation. And then the next material is about English for Europe. Will be presented by Vina Dwi Harpa. Vina, times is yours.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to explain about English for Europe. The spread of English in Europe through education and media. Through education, education played an important role in spreading English throughout Europe. British educational institutions and publishers such as Cambridge University Press, Oxford University Press, and Longman provide a wide range of English language teaching materials to support learning in Europe. And through media, spread of English through international television stations and films. And also through MTV, which uses several young presenters from England, France, Germany, and Italy, who use variations of their respective regional language. And over the last 20 until 30 years, standard British English has been seriously challenged by American English. Varieties of American English impact the lives of millions of Europeans through various media. However, standard English is still used as a guide in ELT or English language teaching, while American English is used as the target variety. However, the traditional view or fixation on English standard in English language teaching is still questionable. International standard of English need to be maintained, but language variations also need to be recognized and appreciated. David Crystal seeks to develop a theoretical basis for understanding New English in the context of diversity and hybridizations. He stressed the importance of maintaining international standard to maintain global understanding while recognizing local variations to maintain local identity. David Crystal makes suggestion for abandoning or moving away from a rigid traditional view of English or from an absolute concept or correct English to a more flexible model, such as accepting variations in English usage. However, this view has not been fully accepted globally. Some educational institutions still maintain a perspective view and use standard English as the main benchmark. Maybe that's all from me. I'll give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vina, for your great explanation. And then the next material is about critical stances and post-colonial perspective or mainland Europe, and will be presented by Nabila. Nabila, please.
All right, thank you, moderators. Here I will explain about the critical stances. So here, Robert Philipson, the most ardent critic in Europe of English as a global and European lingua franca, published Linguistic Imperialism in 1992. In his work, there is a great deal of concern for the survival of miniature and lesser used languages, an issue of global relevance given that so many miniature languages are struggling for survival. And Philipson's work has strong anti-American undertone. He seems unwilling to reconcile himself to the fact that for mainland European, British culture and British English can also be experienced as intrusive. And then Philipson critique of Euro-English is rooted in his broader concern about linguistic imperialism, monolingualism, and the erosion of multilingualism Europe. While Euro-English may be seen by some as a European adoption of a global language, and Philipson views it as a manifestation of deeper structural inequalities that undermine linguistic diversity and cultural identity in Europe. And he argued that a truly multilingual and equitable Europe should resist dominance of any one language, even in a localized from like your English. And then the post-colonial perspective for mainland Europe. In mainland Europe, Europeans in the process of creating a pan-European culture in and through English can also be seen to be on the higher peer if the standards for the use of the European lingua franca are produced primarily in Britain, but also in the US. What rights and privileges will mainland European have in determining the form and functions of their lingua franca? English for them can act as a form of empowerment. And ELT practitioners across Europe have traditionally been committed to standard language ideologies with ideas of perspectivism and the maintenance of mutual intelligibility. Underpinning foreign language education for discussion. Similarly, in 2001, it is widely believed that this is the best accomplished by enforcing consistency in standard English. The standing of British English as the sole target for mainland European ELT, however, is becoming destabilized because of this decline in the status and authority of British English. There is now a need to find alternative strategies, not only for ELT, but also for the use of English in other capacities. While it may appear to be the case that the time is now ripe for the acceptance of a local variety of English for mainland Europe, its legitimization, codification, and standardization is proving to be a challenging endeavor. All right, so that's all from me. I'll give it back to moderator. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Nabila, for your explanation. And the next material is about European endonormative model and will be presented by Ade Dimas. Ade Dimas, time is yours.
All right, thank you. And now I would like to explain about the European endonormative model in Euro-English. The first one is emergence of local norm. In the European endonormative model, the English language evolved according to local linguistic and cultural context, moving away from exonormative models or external norm like British or American English. Mollin 2006 described how Euro-English developed its own standards influenced by the multilingual environment of Europe. This led to features in pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary that are distinctly European. The second one is internal standardization. The European endonormative model places emphasis on how English is used across Europe, specifically within the Euro, and how it's becoming standardized internally. Seidhofer 2012 argues that this process allows European English to develop as a variety that reflects the communicative needs of European speakers. The focus on mutual intelligibility and practical communication rather than strict adherence to native speaker norm. This can be seen in the adoption of terms like subsidiarity or harmonization, which are commonly used in Euro discourse. And the next is Euro-English as a distinct variety. Euro-English fits within the broader framework of World Englishes as a variety that is shaped by Europe's unique political and linguistic landscape. Kachru 1985 model of World Englishes, which include the inner, outer, and expanding circles of English, places Europe within the expanding circle. However, with the emergence of Euro-English as an normative model, Europe is developing its own variety of English, distinct from traditional exonormative models like British English. Jenkins 2009 points out that Euro-English is an example of how non-native speakers are creating their own norm, especially in multilingual and international contexts. And the next is multilingual influence. The European normative models in Euro-English is heavily influenced by the multilingualism of Europe. Byrne 2005 notes that this variety of English is shaped by contact with multilingual Europe language, leading to linguistic features that reflect the local language spoken across the continent. This includes phonological variation, as well as the adoption of syntax and idiomatic expression from language like German, French, or Spanish. And the last is pedagogical implication. In educational context, the European normative models influence how English is taught in Europe. Kirkpatrick 2010 highlight that language teaching materials are increasingly being localized to reflect the European context, where students are likely to use English in international settings rather than in native-speaking countries. This shift encourages teachers to focus on communication skills that prioritize clarity and mutual understanding over native speaker fluency. This pedagogical shift aligns with the goals of the European normative model.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dimas, for your explanation. And then the next material is about the European Union context will be presented by me. So the EU's language policy reflects a contradiction between promoting linguistic diversity and the growing popularity of English. While the EU promotes multilingualism, English is becoming more dominant, and there are no legal directives to manage its position. Without a clear policy, English is developed by corporate and public groups, resulting in inconsistent practice throughout Europe. And this is the example of English for Europe. Wait a second.
The European Union currently has 28 member states, with 24 official languages between them. To facilitate internal communications, French, German, and English have been adopted as the favoured working languages. English is the most widely spoken language within the halls of the European government, which has led to it becoming the default lingua franca. Thus, a new English dialect has developed, Euro-English. Euro-English is a strange beast, mainly because of who it's used by.
Alright, so that the example of English for Europe accent. And thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.